Hello and welcome to this tutorial on Donkey Kong. So this is what the game will look like when we finish up this tutorial. And so I'll just give you a little preview here of it. And so hit the play button. It's really just the first level. And there's a lot of simplification with it. We could make it a little bit more complex here. So there it is. You can see the barrel rolling. We can move Mario back and forth. There's no flaming barrel down here. The jump, reasonable. The climbing of the ladder, again, reasonable. The barrels, you'll notice, only fall at the end, sort of. Let me jump. Let's see here. They don't go down. There's no sort of randomness. Oops, I died. Try it again. And let's see if I do better this time. We'll give it one more try. See if I can reach the top. So we can just wait. There we go. So like I said, it's pretty simplistic in the sense that, oh, there we go. See if we can beat that. Oh, there we go. That it doesn't have the randomness that the original game would have. And then I rescue Princess Peach, and we go to the next level. And at the moment, the next level is just the same. Now, the big thing here, that's sort of different than our other tutorials, the character controller will be a little bit different. We've got these animations going on. There's, stuff that we haven't looked at with Asteroids, with Pong, with Breakout. And so this just gives you an idea of how to make a sort of 2D platformer, and a classic one at that. So let's do first things first here. And the first thing is to bring in the assets. And you should already have these assets. They are available in the Teams notebook. And so we've got, the barrel, Donkey Kong, and so on. So we're going to spend the first couple minutes here just setting up these images, and then we'll create a bunch of prefabs that we can use in our game. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all of them here. And on the right side here in the inspector, we're just going to make a few changes, although I think they're pretty good already. 16, that's what we want, so the pixels per unit, that will give us the right size. Make sure that they're on full rectangular, and that just creates a full rectangle basically around it. Where are we here? The wrap mode we'll talk about in a minute, making sure that they're on point. That will make these sort of pixel perfect ones. We don't want any blending, any sort of filters on them, so we'll just make sure it's like that. And the size is 64, which is what we wanted. And actually 64, I'm gonna make mine 128, so that. And then we just wanna make sure that there is no compression. I'm just looking here, what do we got here? I think we're good. I think we're good there. I don't see any compression going on, so I just wanted to make sure, and then we're good. So we're gonna apply that to make sure. So just change that to 128. Okay, we should be good there. Now there are two that we want to change a little bit, and that's the platform. And the one thing we want to make sure with the platform there is, and actually it's already set, that that's on repeat. That allows us to sort of extend it out, and we'll do the same thing with the ladder. So just make sure that that's on repeat. So if that's all done, then what we need to do is just start with our prefabs. So let's, before we even begin that, create a folder here for our prefabs. Remember, prefabs are just things that we can use over and over in our game, right? So we create one of them, and then we can just sort of drag them in. So this is going to be important because we're going to reuse our ladders, we're going to reuse the barrels for sure, we're going to reuse the ramps. So a lot of the elements are going to be reused over and over again. And the other thing is that, even if we, especially just, and that's just the first level, if we go to the second level, third level, then we can just reuse them as well. Makes life a little bit easier. So to create our prefabs here, let's just go into our sprites and work our way through. So we've got our barrel, and let's just drag that in, or you could just drag it into here. Either way, it doesn't really matter. We've got to do a few things here. The barrel is going to be one of the ones that are actually moving in the game. And so we need two things on there. One would be a circle collider 2D, and we'll just sort of zoom in just to double check. So it looks reasonable size. And not only is it moving, well, because it's moving too, we'll need that rigid body 2D. And for the moment, we'll leave everything here. I think that's good. And so that sort of creates our barrel. Now it's not a prefab yet. To do that, we just need to make sure we drag it into our prefabs folder. And we can see that's turned blue there. And since we've created the prefab, we can just get rid of it. Let's go on and do our next ones. Back to our sprites. Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong, there he is. He's not actually going to move at all, so he does not read a rigid body. But if we do contact with him, which is kind of unlikely, but we probably should, maybe die or something like that if we do run into him. So let's just put a box collider around him. That's fine. We don't have to be any more precise than that. And that's all we need to do for Donkey Kong. And while we're at that, let's do Princess, I think it's Princess Pauline. I might have misspoke earlier and called her Princess Peach, but let's go just do her because she's the same thing. She's not going to move. We just need to be able to know when we collide with her, sort of to end the level. So again, the same thing is we'll just put a box collider 2D and it should match up pretty close. So we're good there as well. All right. We're getting through these pretty quickly. We have a few more to do here. Let's, what should we do next here? I guess the ladder. So let's do the ladder. There it is. Just drag it in. We can actually delete Princess Peach or Princess Pauline. Sorry there. That is our ladder. And now one thing you might notice about it is that it's white. And so what's nice about having a white sprite is that you can easily transform the color. And so you can come into here, and I think in the game there's sort of more of a bluey, turquoisey color. And so with that sort of being white, very quickly you can change it up. So I've just changed that there. It's not going to be moving, so we don't need a rigid body, but we do need a collider on it. So we're going to go for a box collider 2D again. There's a couple other little things that we're going to do. One is with the draw mode, because we want to be able to extend this up or down, we want to make sure that this one is tiled. Okay, so we'll set that to tiled there. And that way we can change the height and the width. So definitely the height here, I'm going to pump that actually to 1 to begin with, and we can go around and modify that. One thing you'll notice with the box collider is the box collider did not change. And so this is a little bit of a trick. You have to change both to match them up there. So you can see that that is a box collider. Okay, that's the same size as our sprite renderer. Now, the one last thing that we want to do here, because we want to be able to sort of walk through the ladder, I guess, for lack of a better term, we want to be, we don't want it to bump into it. So we're going to make that a trigger. And then when we do the sort of the on trigger enter, we'll know that it is, that we could climb up there. Okay, so that should be good for the ladder. Let's just make that a prefab, and then we can delete that. And what else we got here? Well, Mario and the platform. Let's do the platform next because it's actually more similar to the ladder. So let's just go into our sprites again, get our platform. And again, our platform is white. And so that allows us again to color it. The original color is sort of more of a brownish color, somewhere in there. You can better match it up or whatever. We can change it later, something like that maybe. Okay, decent. I might change it later. The other thing there with it, of course, it doesn't move, but it just like the other one, it needs a box collider 2D. I think the width, yeah, we're looking sort of for the width here, it's 1. We do want to be able to extend it out. So again, the draw mode, instead of being simple, we'll set that to tiled. And so then you can see here, if I pull that out, right, we can very easily create our sort of our levels or whatever you want to call it there. We'll just set it to 1 for the moment. Okay, I think that is good for the platform. And I mean, in the end, we can always come back and modify these too if we mess them up, right? So there's not a big deal. And let us get Mario for our last one, and just delete that. And Mario, we'll take the Mario 1 run. Now there are 3, I guess, images here. Those will be used for the run animation, which we'll get to in a little bit of time. So again, Mario is one of the ones that do move. So we'll go with, I guess we'll put the rigid body in there first. So rigid body 2D. Again, we'll leave everything there. And then we're going to add another component. Typically, a capsule collider is what's used for a character, just because they're sort of more capsule shaped. At the moment, it's kind of a circle. We do have to reduce the width here. So let me come here, size, I think, on the x-axis. And I think 0.5, oops, not 5, 0.5. There we go. So that's pretty close. I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. 0.65, 665, somewhere around there. Again, it's not critical, but it should be pretty close. One last thing we'll do, just because he's the player. Oh yeah, well, it's actually 2 things that we'll do. One is, let's just call him Mario instead of Mario Run. So we'll just get rid of the run that's on there. And then we'll tag him player as well, since he is the player. All right, so that should be pretty good. We'll drag Mario into our prefabs. And so we've got all those prefabs there ready to make the level. Let's just delete that. Might be a good idea to save things. And yeah, we'll sort of end here. And then we're going to work on starting to build out our level. Sample scene is always sort of dangerous to call it sample scene. So I think we'll come into here, scenes. We can just sort of rename it. There we go. And I'll just call it level 01. Okay, that's always something that's a good idea. Oftentimes you bring things in, they're also called sample scenes. If you've got like a prefab scene or whatever, and then it can overwrite your original scene. So giving it sort of an original name, a different name, is useful. We also go to the camera here. The background on Donkey Kong is black, so we'll set that to black. We'll make the camera just a little bit bigger. I think I've set that to 7.5. And so if we look at our game, it's hard to tell there. I'm going to make sure that's 16 by 10 as well. And I think that's okay for sort of setting things up there in terms of getting the game ready. Now, in terms of actually starting to play stuff, let's go and just take a little look at what those Donkey Kong levels might look like. And so let me just view this image here. It's a little small, but I'll just bring it over. This is the original levels for Donkey Kong. It's a little bit fuzzy there, but you get the idea. And so we're going to recreate this one here. There are a few missing things. Like I said, we don't have these elements in terms of the burning barrel of oil there and the hammer. And obviously the UI stuff we're not going to be putting in. But this is sort of the concept here. Now, the other thing we're missing is sort of the broken ladders. They don't actually work, but you could kind of implement them without too much difficulty, I don't think. And you can see here we've got ladders at different locations and so on. Later on, right, there's different ones here. There's the conveyors, so they're a little bit different style. We've got the elevators, and then these rivets here where we have to sort of get rid of these guys to sort of release Pauline, Princess Pauline. But that's sort of the main idea. So, like I said, we'll concentrate on this one. First thing you'll notice is that we've got these platforms, and they're basically, laid out sort of on different angles. So we'll get that sort of going. And then, like I said, there's either one ladder or sort of two ladders, usually one near the end, and then occasionally one in the middle as well. So we'll try to get that roughly the same. We don't have to make it perfectly the same here. But we do want that barrels to be able to fall. So what I'll first do here is go into our prefabs, because that's why we made our prefabs, and drag this guy out. Now, I'm going to do a little bit work with you first, and then I'll sort of let you get, I'll show you my finished result, and you can kind of match it around there. So the scale here, so we don't play with the scale, come into the sprite render, and we're going to set the bottom one to 13. So that should be okay. We're going to bring that over. It's sort of in a bad spot. Let's just reset that position and just bring it down. So we want that pretty close to the bottom there. Now, the other thing that we want to do is set it so that it's a bit of an angle. But we also want this arrow here to be pointing in the direction that it's falling. And that's going to come in later on. We're basically going to get the barrels to be moving in the sort of basically we want transform.up and transform.right. We want it to be moving in the right direction. So the easiest thing to do is just sort of flip this around. So to do that, I'm just going to set that to 180. And so now you can see the arrow, the transform.right is actually going to the left, a little confusingly. And then we just wanted to rotate this. So 2 now, because I did it that way, so it'd be -2 to get it sort of on a rise there. Okay. Basically, that's it for the bottom. I might just want to round out that number, 6.5. And then I'm just going to sort of, I won't duplicate that. Well, I guess I could duplicate it. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll duplicate the next one, because here, what I'm going to do is, again, set this, but I'm going to make this one 12. Oh, and one important thing I forgot. Here, I did not change the collider. So my collider is on the small side here. So I got to make sure I set that size to 13 as well. There we go. And then back to this one. So I set that to 12. So a little bit smaller. Also, this size, I need to set to 12 to make sure your box collider, or else you'll fall through. This one, it's going to be rotated in the opposite direction. So I think I can do, yeah, that one's also going to be -2 because it's rotated differently. And then just try to, it's a little bit hard without the size there, so maybe I'll just bring in Mario to give us some context. We obviously don't want him to be crushed here, so I need it a little bit higher, kind of like that. And the other thing I'm going to make sure is this one on the x-axis, I guess this one is defined at 0. This one here, I'm going to shift over a little bit to the right, so -0.5. There we go. So I'm going to basically offset them by 0.5 each time. So this one will go here, and it is pointed down, so we're good. I'm just going to duplicate that, Control D. We've got another one. I'm going to just bring it up. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. I'm going to set that, and the -2 is fine. And I'm going to set that one to 0.5 on the positive, so there's a little bit of room. Again, I might want to just bring up my Mario there just to sort of see. Okay, so maybe a little higher on that, and we'll just sort of play around with it. Okay. So I'm going to keep doing this a little bit more, and you can do this on your own, and then we'll come back with the ladders there. And so what I've got here should be roughly, well, what you have. It doesn't have to be exact. We might have to do a little bit of fine tuning when we watch those barrels fall and stuff, but we'll see that. So I've just placed these basically all the same, just alternating. So there's 6 levels, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just making sure the arrow is always pointing down, right? So that transform dot right is pointing down the hill. And then I just made sure that looks like there was enough room there for him to get by, and then sort of creating this little bit at the top. And then the other thing would be the ladders. And so again, the placement of the ladders is a little bit up to you. Might want to get sort of this first ladder in. Looks like it should be a little bit higher. So we could play with the height. I don't know if 1.5 is good. Let me just drag it up. And so probably it doesn't have to go through. And so just has to sort of touch that bottom. And so if I get that one in, these distances here should be about the same. So I'm just going to Control D and just drag those up. In fact, I might just drag that straight up to start with. Kind of like that. And then maybe, oops, click on this guy, Control D, bring it over like that. And Control D, just drag that one down to there. And then maybe a couple in the middle. So let's just Control D, drag this one. And even that one, the height's probably pretty good. I might just go up to 2 on that. Is that too big? It's probably okay. And then I'll just Control D and then just shift that over to the right a little bit. And then Control D and shift that one over to the left a little bit. Again, nothing's written in stone here. This is just sort of rough. Now, there is a little bit of a problem, I guess. The ladders are kind of sticking out in front. If you look at the original game, they kind of sit in behind. You can always play with the order in layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm first actually going to clean up all of these. So I'm just going to grab all the ladders and just call them ladder. They don't have to be numbered. Platform, we'll do the same sort of thing. Let me see if I can move that platform up there, just so they're all together. And so we'll just call all those ones platform. That's good. Now, in terms of the Mario, so Mario will be in front. So you can see the sorting, additional settings, order and layer, we'll set him to 1. The platforms, we'll put those a little bit ahead, or a little bit behind. They'll be ahead of the ladders. So I'm going to make that one -1. That just ensures that Mario is in front. And then the ladders, we'll just put those in behind. And so you can see that they're there. And so we'll just set those to -2. And yeah, so it looks a little bit better. These guys might be a little bit too tall, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So that's, basically laid out our level. So from now on, it really is a matter of programming. And we're going to start off with our character controller, basically our player controller, to get Mario to move. So let's go ahead and start our scripting of our player controller. So let's make a new folder here while we're at it. Folder, and we'll call it scripts. And then we will go in there and make a new C# script. And so this one, let's just call it player controller. I'll open that guy up. And a little bit different than we did before, say with asteroids or whatever. We are going to obviously move the rigid body, but we're not going to add force here. It's going to be more like, I guess we didn't even do that with Pong. It's going to be sort of a different style here because it's your typical sort of 2D platformer, and they don't quite follow physics. So it's a little hard to use, just sort of adding force and so on to replicate what it does sort of in the arcade. So the first thing we'll do here, let's just open up we'll use private because we don't need to see it. We don't need to access it later. We'll just make our rigid body. So rigid body 2D, and we'll call it our old RB2D. And we'll also get a direction here, private direction. So that will be based on, that will be a vector 2, and we'll call it direction. And that will be when we sort of press the controls, so we can get a direction on the x-axis, a direction on the y-axis, and then we'll also have to change the move speed. And we'll make this public here. We'll make it a float, and we'll call it move speed. Okay, so those 3 variables there will be useful. What we'll do on awake, so I'm going to change that to awake rather than start. That just happens a little bit earlier than start, so we'll just move that up. And so we need to get access to our rigid body, so we can do our old faithful here. There we go. Get component rigid body 2D, no troubles. And then what we'll do in the update is we'll grab our keyboard input. And so what we want to do, direction. So direction is a vector 2, so we can specifically grab the x component. And what we'll do is input.getAxis, just like you've used before, and we'll do the horizontal on that. Be careful of the spelling because they need to match directly with the input manager. And we're going to do the same thing on the y-axis, input.getAxis. But of course, the difference here is that we'll use the vertical one. If I can spell, and make sure you do spell it correctly. Okay, so that grabs the input for that. And we want that in the update because, we want the sort of it to be constantly checking the keyboard there. Now, in terms of actually moving it, because we're going to use the rigid body, we're going to use the physics, we want to make sure that that's in the fixed update. So private void fixed update, and what we want to do is grab our RB2D, and as I mentioned, we're not going to be using the add force because it just doesn't work quite what we want. So here we're actually going to use move position, and so move position, as you can see, requires a vector 2, and so what we're going to do is we're going to do the let's see, the rigid body, so RB2D dot position. So we're going to take its position and add the direction on. Direction, and then just to make sure that it kind of follows sort of standard time rather than the speed of the computer, we'll do time dot, and I haven't used this one, but it'd be fixed delta time. So it's just sort of a set amount of time. That will just improve the consistency between the computers. All right, so I think that's pretty good there. The move speed, let's just set that for a default value of 1F, just so that we've got a value there to start with. Let's save it up. Go back to Unity, and I guess the first thing we should do is make sure that we add it to Mario. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is that we can go into this prefab itself and do that, or you can go to Mario and then add it to that. So we call that the player, and it should find it here, right? The player, what should I call it? Character, no, I call it player. Let's just find our script here. Player controller, why won't it add it there? So I can add it to Mario. So there is error. So the script class, just a second here, I think it's fine. I think it just didn't update when I saved it. Player controller, things are good. For some reason, I have to re-import this is not the right one, sorry. This one here, I'm just going to re-import. There we go. Okay, so Mario, now it should find it. Player control, there it is. And so we can see the move speed is set to 1. Now, like I said, this added it directly to Mario in the scene. It didn't add it to Mario in the prefab. Excuse me. You can see the blue here. That's what it's telling you, that this is new to this one. And so the easiest thing to do is just set the overrides, and it shows you that the player script was added. So I'm just going to apply all and add it to the prefab, and then that blue is gone now. Okay, now it should move, maybe not very well, but let's just sort of see what's going on. And yes, he rolls. So I think this is the way it works, right? So he's just sort of like rolling like the barrel itself. Well, obviously, not quite what we want. And so what we're going to do here is prevent him from rolling. So on our rigid body, let us go to our constraints and make sure he doesn't rotate. He seemed a little slow there too. I'm going to bump that up to 2 and just see. Change 2 things at once there. And yeah, he's still a little on the slow side. And he doesn't rotate, he doesn't go backwards, he walks backwards. But, well, we've got a feel for it, okay? So he is moving. He should, if we sort of walk off the edge, he should fall, and we can all laugh. There we go. He's falling a little slowly. Might have to do something with that too. I don't know what he was falling so slowly there. But yeah, he is working there. Okay, again, you can play around. We're going to do a lot with the animations and so on. So it's just sort of a proof of concept that he can move left or right at the moment. We're not too worried about everything else. So he's moving okay. Let's get him rotating in the right direction. So basically, if he's moving this way, he's fine. And then we need him to rotate the other way there. So what you'll find here is that we could just sort of rotate him on, is that the Z? Not the Z, that will rotate him that way. One of these ones. We'll get him to spin around. There we go. So basically on the y-axis, we just need to rotate it so that he's going in the right direction. And so we know this, if he's going this way, sort of to the right, is kind of sort of a positive. And then if he's going the other way, that's going to be a negative, and we just have to flip his rotation on that y-axis. So let's implement the code there. We can do this right in the update because it's not, doesn't need to be in the fixed update because it's not going to affect the rigid body or anything. So basically here, if the direction is positive, so on the x-axis is positive, okay, so greater than 0, then what we'll do is rotate it. So to rotate, well, actually we won't rotate it because that's going to be what he is by default. So transform dot Euler angles, don't worry too much, and then we'll just make a vector3 0. And so that will just be it zeroed out, so 0, 0, 0, okay, no rotation. And then I guess we could do an else, but just in case is 0 itself, right? We don't want to sort of get that. So let's just do if it's negative, direction.x is less than 0, so it's a negative direction. And actually this should have been else if. There we go. Oops, what am I doing here? Okay, I just want to get out of that. Okay, there we go. So down here, and then we'll just sort of do the same thing, but we're going to actually rotate it. So transform dot Euler angles. Now, of course, it won't be vector 3 here. We have to do new vector 3. And you can see there it says 0, 0, 0. Well, we want 0, and like I showed you, 180. And we'll make sure that's a float, and like that. So basically, we're spinning it on that on its y-axis, and so now it should be facing in the right direction as he moves, or the left direction, whichever way he's moving. He should be facing the right direction. No more walking backwards here. So on this guy, let's just see. So he should start if I go to the right here. Oops, if I hit play. We should be good, and then if I hit left, there he goes. So he spins around, no problem, and he follows the direction. Now he does go up too. You might have noticed that he is changing direction, and that's okay. We'll deal with the up and down later on. But in terms of left or right, at least he's now facing the right direction for us. Good. So I think that's good for here, and we'll continue on. Originally, this game was called Jumpman for a specific reason. Mario can jump. So we need to make sure, well, I guess he wasn't really called Mario then, he was Jumpman. But anyways, we need to make sure that he can jump. And so what we're going to do is put in a bit of code here. Now, this we'll sort of get it kind of working, and then we'll refine it a little bit because we need to make sure if he's grounded or not. So we don't want to sort of deal with double jumping and a few other things. Let us make sure we're on the player controller, and we will set a, let's just set this to public, float, and we'll put a basically a jump strength, probably a good word for it. And we'll set that to 1 as well. And of course, we can play around with that if we need to. Now, to get him to jump, we're going to put in the update here. So we're going to look for, the entry. There is the jump controller, basically, like a jump button. So we're going to do the input.get get button. I think here, get button down. And so it's very similar to get key down, but for button down, it will let us do the jump. So to jump, so I guess they have to press that jump button, which is maps to the space bar, and then we can get him to jump. So what we will do is we'll get him to do this direction. Direction.y will equal. No, I guess we'll just do direction. So direction equals vector2.up, and then we'll times that by the jump strength. And there we go. So that's good. And then what we want to do next is, and if you hear any purring, it's my cat here. Okay, so then we want to make sure that that this jump strength sort of that's going to lift him up. We need to bring him down. So if he's not jumping, we'll put an else in here. So so else. So that's really the only other thing. He's jumping or he's not jumping. We'll get the direction. We'll push him down. So we're going to do plus equals, and we're going to multiply that by the physics 2D. And there is a gravity there, so it actually, the gravity times, now we won't times it by move speed, we'll times it by time.delta time. Okay, so I think that should do it there. For the moment, we don't really need this anymore because we're jumping that way. So let's just comment that out for a second. So we don't want to be able to use the up and down arrows. We're going to be using the spacebar to do that. So let's save that, see what we've got. The only thing I would say here as well, that's not the right one. Oh yeah, that is the right one, sorry. The only thing I would say here, when it's loading up here, I think, Taking its sweet time. Come on. There we go. For whatever reason, it's rebuilding. There we go. The only thing we want to make sure to do too is on Mario is we want to remove the gravity scale. So we'll basically turn that off. And while we're at it, he doesn't really need any drag either. We'll get rid of those. And then we'll sort of see how this is working. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect because he's not detecting if he's on the ground or not. So, but we should be able to. Oh, yes. And the other problem, okay, so there is this issue. You can see he's jumping a little bit, which is kind of what we want. We probably need a little bit more strength. So let's just bump that up a little bit more. Now, there is a problem where the gravity is sort of compounding. So you can sort of see he jumps up. Now, he hits his head there a little bit, and I can't move him. Okay, I can turn left and right, but I can't move him, except when he's in the air. And the primary problem there is just that he's got too much gravity pushing down on him. And what we'll do is, the moment we're compounding it, when we're not pressing the spacebar, what we need to do is sort of make sure that he's on the ground. Because obviously this is an issue too, where he can, I guess I can fly. I could fly over to Mario, isn't that nice, right? So we need, or to Donkey Kong, we need to fix that up there. So let's take a look at how we can fix that. To check for sort of if you're grounded is probably the most complicated part of this. So we'll go through this a little bit slowly. First thing first, let's come up to here and put a few things in, and then we'll sort of explain it as we go here. We are going to look for basically overlaps here. And so what I'm going to do is, I guess we'll just put these together. So put a private new, and we'll do collider 2D, and I'll call that collider 2D. Okay, so that'll be able to give us a reference to our collider. And we'll do another one too, which is going to be, oh, we didn't need new there, sorry. Just do that. We need an array of colliders. So what we're going to do is check to see, I guess the potential is that Mario is connecting or overlapping with a variety of different colliders, and we need to sort of run through them and check to see if he is actually on one that is our ground. So you'll sort of see how that works. And so this is an array. Some of you have used one before that will hold multiple values, not just one single value in there. And we'll call these our overlaps. And what it will be is a new and collider 2D, and we will put 4 in it. That will allow us to put an array of 4 items in it. And that should be enough for this game. We don't want to put too many more in there. And I don't think we need the Boolean that goes along with that. So do, let's just make this public for the moment. Public bool, and we'll call that grounded. So either he'll be grounded or not, okay? In the awake here, just like we did before with a rigid body, let's grab the collider on here. So collider 2D equals component, get collider, so that should be fine there. What we want to do next is basically in the update. So at the moment, we've got all our controller in here. What we will do is we will run a check collision function. And so we want to make sure that it is or isn't colliding with something, okay? So that check collision is giving us an error because we need to put that code in. So I guess we'll just do that there. And so we will call this, I guess, private void check collision. Okay, and it doesn't take anything. And so now we have to basically put our values in. So what we're going to do is every time we're going to assume that grounded is false. Okay, so that will sort of say that we're not grounded, and then we have to prove basically that we are grounded. And so what we want to do here is check for overlaps. And excuse me. And so that will be the first thing. So it's going to return an integer, and you'll see this in a second. So let me just type this out. So the amount, and that will allow us to run through. So physics2d dot overlap non-allocation. What that does is it allows us to just limit the amount of memory. So we've got four slots for it instead of sort of figuring them all out. What we're going to do is, oops, I don't think I need an extra bracket there, transform.position, because we need a point A, it says. So basically we're taking the player's position. And what we don't have yet is the size. And we'll come back to the size there in a second. And then we need, so that's point A, point B, and not size of, we just haven't created size. Okay, results, let's just put 0 in there, and then we'll put it into the overlaps. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. So size here, obviously, is not working at the moment. What we'll do is we'll create that size, vector 2, and that will be size. And we'll define that with basically the collider dot bounds dot size. And sorry, that should be collider 2D. So we did this with the Pong game, right? We were able to figure out the width of the paddle. Same idea. We just want to try to get the size of Mario here. And so what we'll do is we'll do size dot y is equal to let me just see here. Well, actually, we'll leave that for the moment because we'll come back to that later. So let's leave that there. And so now we do have the size there. So physics 2D. Just trying to see what we've got here. Gonna have to convert float to collider 2D. I figured out my problem here. Sorry, overlap box. It's sort of a box collider there. So we've got, that should be good. Transform.position, size. Now that fixes that there. So we've got point and size, which makes more sense now. And then our angle. So we're just got 0 because it's straight up and down. And then we're going to put the results into that collider 2D called overlaps. Okay, that should be good. So now that we've got the results, basically we've got this amount, okay, and then we've got it into the array, what we're going to do is a for loop here. So some of you are familiar with this. And everything worked out there nicely. So we're going to run through the amount of objects that we have in our overlaps array, basically. So we've got I is 0. We'll increment I as we go through up to the number that we've got there. And so we're going to define a hit. So game object, we'll call it hit, is equal to the overlaps, and then the value that we get out of there, and it's going to be a game object. Game object. There we go. So once we've got that in, we've sort of got this hit. And then we can check what kind of hit it is. Basically, we're going to be looking for the ground. Now, what we'll do in a minute here is create a layer so that we've got that. So hit.layer. So we're checking this layer. And then the layer mask dot name to layer. And in that, we're going to put ground because we're going to label basically the prefab, that the ground, right? We're going to put that into that layer. And so basically, if it is, then we want to set the grounded to be true. Now this is a little bit more sort of fancy here. Grounded, and then we're going to take equals hit.transform.position.y. So you'll see this in a minute. And we want to make that less than, and we're going to do a few little things here. So transform.position.y, and then we're good. Not size. Let me just think about this for a second. Minus the size.y. We don't want that to be that value there. I think we'll want that divided by 2 because that will be too much for us. So let's just divide that by 2. We might have to come back and sort of fix that up. And so then that should be putting us on the ground. So let's see if this works. We've got a start here. Definitely not a finish, but we've got a start for this. So first thing I'm going to do is go back and then change this to the assets. And so really I want to go to my prefabs here and set this platform, and we want to change its layer. Now at the moment we don't have the ground layer, so I'm going to add that. I guess we'll just pop it in there. Ground. And we'll go back to our prefab and set that to ground. And make sure you spell it correctly, or the same way at least, be consistent. And I think is inherited. Let's just see what happens here. So what I'm looking for is to see if Mario is saying that he is grounded. And so let's take a look at Mario. Now yep, so it is saying he's grounded. Now the trick will be does he not grounded? So good. So it seems to be working, right? We've got him going up and then coming back down, and we can see the grounded popping in and out. And I think the numbers are looking okay. He's having trouble moving still. I'll have to look at that. But at least we've got him up and down, okay? Now we still have a little bit of an issue with our jumping, right? And so he hits his head there and sort of goes down. What we want to do is sort of ignore that collision. And like I mentioned too, he doesn't really move left and right anymore until he's in the air. So we have to do a couple things just to fix that up. And otherwise, then our jumping should be pretty good. So let's go back to the code. Which one is it? I think it's this one here. And so what we want to be able to do is, let's deal with the, I guess the, which one should we do? I guess the head. So what we're going to do is, we got him grounded there. If he's not grounded, basically, we're going to turn off the other ones here. So what I'm going to do is physics 2D. dot ignore collisions, and then with the overlap. So this is going to be the other ones basically. Overlaps. Whoops. Spell overlaps. And I. So let me just make sure this get this one right. And then collider 2D. And then we will say not grounded. Okay, so like it says here, makes the collision detection system ignore all collisions between collider 1 and collider 2. Okay, and then sort of this gives a situation, right? So we ignore when they're not grounded. So basically, once he's in the air, we're going to sort of ignore those collisions, right? Because he's don't need to worry about it. He's going up, he won't be on the ground. Once he gets to the ground again, it will block that. So let's see if this works. So we want to make sure at the moment he just sort of goes through the layer. I don't know if it, let me just compile, this thing's always in the way. Let's just try that again. So there we go. So it's a little bit more natural, okay? He sort of, his head goes through. Now he'll never go high enough. We don't have, he's still double jumping, so I gotta fix that up. That's interesting. I didn't think he would be double jumping. So let's see why that's happening. We'll figure that out. But before we do that, let's just make sure he's moving left and right. So I'm going to go back to my code here, and we want to be able to get him to go left or right. So what I'm going to do is just come into here. So let's just see. We've got the check collision. Sorry, I want to go back up to our update function here. And we've got this, direction. So we've got our directions here. I guess I'll just put that right above this guy. So right in here, I'll just plop it in here. So if grounded, so if he is on the ground, we don't want that gravity building up. So what we'll do is direction.y is equal to mathf.max. And this will sort of keep it to, because it's down, so the direction.y can get quite large. So it's going to choose the maximum of that, or probably just -1f will be fine. And so you might say, well, it was the maximum, right? This is going to be a greater negative number, which will be smaller. So we're actually going to be able to grab this if this number gets too large. That should prevent him, our good friend Mario, from, well, it should allow him to move left and right now. Let's just see. I should hit play instead of waiting for miracles to happen here. There we go. So now, I mean, he's a little slow, but we can fix it up. Okay. Yeah, so he's still doing our double jumping. We need to look at that, but at least he's moving left or right, and he's a little slow. I mean, that would be just sort of playing with our move speed, right? Maybe 4 on that too, but that should fix that problem. So let's try to figure out why he is still double jumping, because he's not supposed to. Oh yes, right here. So we did not update this. We've got him jumping regardless, right? So what we need to do is put in another condition here, and we just need to say that, and he's grounded. Right, so he needs to be grounded, and we need to press the space button. I think that should solve that problem. Let's just go back. Okay, sorry, I forgot to hit play again. And so now he's moving left and right. He jumps, no double jumping, right? So as simple as that, we just needed to put that secondary condition. He seems a little slow still. Did I bump that up? That's 4. Let's go to 8 and try that out. You just have to find the right value. I mean, it will make more sense as he goes in. That speed does not seem to be helping too much. So I'm just going to double check my code there, because that seems to be a little bit on the slow side. So we do have the input. Direction that spins him. Where do we have fixed inputs? Move position plus direction times 5. But did we never multiply by the speed? That seems to be the issue. 5 times fixed time. Just trying to remember. Horizontal times move speed. Where is that here? So direction.x, this is my problem. I never multiplied it by the move speed. There we go. So this here, that was missing. And so once we put that in, we're good. We're allowed to, it's probably moving a bit faster than I expected. Let's just take a look. There we go. Yeah, so he's a little fast now. Probably back to 4 would be better, but at least we've solved that problem. So little things here or there, but I think we've got a pretty good character controller. We do have to deal with the ladders, which we'll deal with next, but his movement's not too bad. He does look weird because he does not have any animation, and so that's another thing we need to do, along with the barrels. Yeah, but we've got a pretty good or a decent character controller so far. All right, so we've pretty well done everything that we need to do in terms of movement. Mario's moving around pretty well, but we do have to get up those ladders. And so really, to do that, we just need to, oh, I missed, just like, oh, I missed a ladder up here. We need to put a ladder in. We just need to change the layer. We'll do the sort of the same thing that we did with the ground. We'll put these ladders on a ladder layer, and then we will sort of go into the code and fix that up. So let's just actually, let me duplicate that while I'm at it, Control D, and just bring that up. And that one I might need to make a little bit taller. So let's just make that up here. Order in layer, oh, height, there we go. Let's just do 2 for the moment. That looks pretty good. And just don't forget to change your box collider as well. Okay, there we go. And just pull it up a bit. Okay, there, now I got that ladder settled. So anyways, back to this guy here. We want to change the default from default layer to a ladder layer, so we don't have a ladder layer. So let's add a ladder layer. And once we've done that, then the old thing where we have to go back to our prefabs, there we are, and actually tag it now that we made it. All right, so there's all tagged ladder layer. They're also tagged is trigger, so that we can sort of walk through it, but that's actually not a big issue here. We're not going to use an on trigger enter. We're just going to sort of use the same idea as before. So when I get this going here, we're going to create another little Boolean up here, and then that will be good for detecting whether or not he's climbing. So we'll just put in, we might as well make it public here, bool and climbing. And so those two, I'm just actually going to bring this guy down because they're kind of related. That way we'll have the ability to detect whether we are climbing or not. Now we'll do sort of the same idea, check collision. Okay, we're going to do it in here, check collision, set that to false. And sort of the same idea here, climbing, we'll set that to false as well. So by default, it will be false. It will be the collision that will kind of decide whether or not that we are actually going to be climbing. And so what we want to do is just sort of come into the same spot here. So we have this, if the hit were on the ground, so that's good. And then we'll just pop in an else if. So let's just do that right here, else if. Basically the same thing. So hit dot layer, so whatever we've hit, if that's equal to the layer mask, dot name to layer, and then the one we're looking for there is ladder. Okay, so very analogous to what we had above, and then we'll put the functionality in here. And really all we'll do is set climbing is equal to true, right? Because that's all we're trying to make sure, that if they've touched the ladder, now we can climb. So what we have to do then is basically allow us to go up. So if climbing is true, we can actually move up. So let's move up here. And so we had this, let me just get this right thing. So I think that was in grounded. We'll actually come right under the check collision here, and we'll put this as an else if now. And just above it, we'll check here if we're on a ladder. So if climbing is true, right, what can we do? Well, we actually have that code already. We just want to move up. And so I'm going to actually steal this back. We had sort of been a little premature in terms of putting that in. Obviously, remove the comment there because it's no longer, do we need to avoid it? And I just will multiply this by move speed as well. I think that's going to be okay. If we find it a little slow, we might have to differentiate between the two, but I think it will be okay. So I think that's it. We can hit save here and take a little look and see if we can climb those ladders. So now we've got hopefully more functionality. Now, I will admit it's not perfect. I think there's some work that we could do to make it a little bit better. But okay, so he's moving, he's still jumping, everything's good. And then you can see there, and it's a little, like I said, it's a little off, but I think we could improve it. Now, the only trouble going down, I have to double check with Donkey Kong if you can actually go down. The trouble we can't get down, I think, is just that it's not connecting with that layer. Oh, and we don't have, well, we know we do have the functionality to go up, but there we go. So we're at the top, and then we're able to save Princess Pauline here. So I think we're good. That's interesting there with that collider. A few little things we might have to play with, right? We can sort of walk off that ladder, but yeah. So not bad. Like I said, he doesn't look very good at the moment because he's not animating. And in fact, animation is the next thing that we'll look at. Now to animate, there's kind of two ways we could do it. One is we could actually use the animator that's sort of built into Unity, which is fine. This is relatively simple, so I'm going to show you just how to code it in. But if you ever want to, play with the animator, feel free to sort of modify it and use the animator instead. So in order to do that, we will need to go back to our code, and we'll set up some variables to start with. The primary, so I'm going to go up to the top here. The primary thing we need to do is, well, first of all, we need a reference to the sprite renderer because that's what's sort of going to draw it. So we might as well make that private and sprite renderer. And then, yes, the lowercase on that one as well. And then what we have is a series of sprites. So that's going to be basically an array of sprites. So we're going to set this to public so we can drag them in. And so then we could put sprite, and then we put that square bracket to indicate that it's an array of them, and we'll call them run sprites. And we also have we'll make that public, just a single sprite, which will be our climb sprite. Obviously, you might want to try to put in multiple sprites for that. I just have one at the moment there. Now, in order to get this to run as well, we'll make this private, and would be an int, we'll have a sprite index. And basically what this is going to do is run through the different sprites that we have. So we're going to kind of have, there's 3 images, but we're going to use them as 4 because we use the middle one sort of, or the resting one kind of as the middle sprite as well. Excuse me. And so that index will be able to sort of go through them, right? So, yep, I think we're good. And so in the awake here, we need to get a call to the sprite renderer. So just like we did, sprite renderer, there we go. There, okay, everything's there. We'll get the component for the sprite renderer. And then after that, I think what I'll do is just create sort of the animation. And so the animated sprite, I'm going to come right down to the bottom. And so we'll make a private, I can't type here today, private void, and we'll call it animate sprite. And so in here, what we need to do is, well, we'll do 2 things, right? So the first easiest one, we'll just go, if climbing is true. So basically if he's climbing, what we need to do is just set that sprite renderer to the climbing sprite. So it's pretty straightforward. So sprite renderer dot sprite, right? So you can grab the sprite that you want. And since we already set it up as a sprite, we will call that the climb sprite. There we go. So basically, right, if we are climbing, we change to the climb sprite, okay? The second thing will be working through if we are basically moving, right? So now the question is, how do you determine if it's moving? Basically, he's always going to be moving somewhat horizontally. So if that direction dot x, right, is not equal to 0, then we want him animating. I guess we can put an F in there, that's fine. And so then how do we animate it? So we're going to sort of, like I said, run through the sprite index. The sprite index will have 4 items in it. And so then we have to run through sort of 0, 1, 2, 3. That's the 4 values. And then that will change the picture. And we need to do that sort of over and over again. We will call this animate sprite function over and over again in a couple minutes here, okay? But the first thing that we need to do is we'll increment the sprite index because it will already be at an image. It will be showing an image, and so we want to increment that by 1. Then, I guess what we'll do is if we get to the end of the sprite index, we need to put it back to the end. So let's just say if the sprite, where did my keys go here? Sprite index is greater than the length of the sprite, the run sprite's index length. So basically, this measures how many we've got. We've got 4. So if it's greater than 4, I guess we should put greater than or equal to because that's already 1 above. So what we'll do is then we'll set the sprite index back to 0. So this is basically just sort of resetting it so that we can start again. And then what we have to do is actually change the sprite renderer. So we haven't actually done that yet. So I guess we'll just be double careful here. So if the sprite index is greater than 0, just trying to think if that makes sense, greater than 0, and sorry here, just a second, and there's my hand, I always forget where it is, sprite index. This is just here to sort of prevent us from overflowing on that, is run sprites.length. And we won't do the -1. Okay, so if it's basically an acceptable sprite index value, and then we'll take the sprite renderer, just like we did above, and dot sprite, and we're going to set it to the run sprites and the sprite index of it. Okay, so let's just save that. we'll go back to Unity, we'll put the images in, and then we'll do the last little bit of code here to get that to work. So I'm going to go back in here. That should have updated the Mario. And I think I've already got a bunch of stuff on the Mario here. So we'll do this and then we'll do the override here. So down here, we've got the sprites, the run sprites. We're going to put 4 in, okay? And then we can open that up. And then we've also got our climb sprites. So if we go back into our sprites, and go back to, we'll just go to Mario here. So what we want to do is, let's do the climb sprite first, Mario Climb. We just throw him in there. The idea with these run sprites is that we're going to do Mario Run 1 is going to be 0, because that's kind of his idle. Then 2, then we're going to go back to 1, and then we're going to do 3. And you'll see that this looks pretty good. Now, if we did play it here, unfortunately, we do not have it actually playing. So he'll just be at his 1, it's not cycling through. So to get it to cycling through, we're going to come back to our script. And what we'll do here is on enable. So that basically means when the game begins, it's almost like an on start. We're going to invoke repeating here. And so that invoking repeating is going to allow us to sort of do it again and again and again here. So let me just find that there. So like I said, it doesn't really matter where we put this. So maybe I'm just going to put it under awake here. So I'm going to do on enable, and that is a built-in function. So basically when the object is available, we're going to invoke repeating. So it means it's going to repeat this over and over again. And what we're going to do is we're going to, the name of, we're going to run the animate sprite function that we created. And then here we have to do sort of when we're going to do it. And so just from knowledge here, we're going to do it a 1/12 of a second. That's when it starts. And then also it's going to repeat the same amount. Okay, so that should be good to get it to play. And then very last thing here, we're going to do on disable. So we'll just turn it off. Disable, and then we can cancel invoke. And that's all we have to do. Okay, let's just very quickly see if we can get this to animate. Play. Good, so he's done. There we are. So you can see when he hit the ladder, he changed it. It's, again, not perfect. I might sort of try to change the logic a little bit, but you can see that he's actually animated, and then we climb, and it does it. I might do something where he can only start to climb if his direction is sort of 0 as well. You might want to sort of improve that a bit, but otherwise, we're good. All right, with Mario moving pretty well, let's get the barrels going. And so what we need to do is spawn the barrels and spawn them probably at a sort of a regular interval, and then get them to roll down. Now, unfortunately, because their gravity's in the game, they should be able to roll down pretty well. We will play around with it a little bit. You'll see a bit of an issue with it, but it's pretty straightforward here. So first things first, let us actually create our, let's just do our script first. So we'll create that first. So in our scripts, we've only got one script. Let's create a new one, and let's call this spawner. And we'll open that up. A second there. And basically, all we need to do here is make sure that it is going to spawn, right? So what do we need to spawn here? We need to instantiate the object. So we're going to create a reference to our game object, which will be our barrel. Game object, we might as well call that barrel. And the other thing is and this is where you can sort of play around with it. We want to invoke, or we want to sort of repeat again the launch of these barrels, right? We want to keep spawning them over and over again. And so that's what we'll kind of work on here. And so when we've got this public, we'll do a min time. And so we can, again, these numbers are just, we've got them public here, so we can change them around. Max time. So somewhere between 2 and 4 seconds. The concept is that we will launch it. At the start, we will launch our spawn function, which we haven't created yet, but that's how it will start. So right from the beginning, and then we'll call this one spawn. So this is actually the function that we will make. Okay, and it's really quite easy. We just instantiate it, and then we just sort of repeat itself. And so this is kind of interesting. It's almost I don't want to say recursion here, but actually this shouldn't be spawner. This should be spawn. There we go. And so we instantiate, so that means make. We saw that with asteroids, right? Being able to create something. We want to create the barrel. Okay, and then we need to know where it's going to go, and we're going to do it right from, we're going to have a spawner object. So transform.position, and we're not worried about the rotation, so quaternion, there we go, dot identity. Okay, there we are. And then what we'll do is we'll just repeat itself. So it comes down, we'll invoke itself, so name of, and then spawn. And then what's it going to do? So how often, right? There's what's the time? Suggesting max time, but what we're going to do is do a random dot range, and then between the min time and the max time. And so that should do it. Okay, so I think that's good. So we'll save that up. And then, like I said, it's pretty straightforward here. All we need to do is go back in here, create a empty game object, and we'll call that spawner. And we just want to move it to basically where Donkey Kong is. Okay, so we're just beside him there. What would be nice is to have the animation of Donkey Kong actually throwing the barrel, but for now, the barrel will just sort of appear. And so, sure, that's fine. We'll just leave it with those numbers. You know, sometimes it's nice to sort of clean them up, get them a little closer, so maybe I'll do that. Just 3.75, maybe see if it, I mean, it's probably fine there. So then we should be able to add our spawner script. There it is. The game object, obviously, is our barrel. So go up to our prefabs, and our spawner. Barrel goes in there. One thing, just as I'm thinking about this here, our Mario, I never applied all our overrides. You can see everything that I've changed is in blue there. So there's quite a bit. So it's a good idea to apply all so that Mario is now equal to our Mario here. And I think that's good. So let's run it and see if the barrels actually create. There's one. You can see there's a little bit of a slowness there. There's the second one. And they just sort of roll down. And that's nice, just like I said, because of gravity. Now there is an issue, obviously. They don't fall straight down and go to the left again. So not much of a game here. So what we just have to do is just create a barrier. And then that allows us to, you know, have it sort of bounce off the wall and back. So I'm just going to create an empty again, probably out here roughly. We're just going to add a box collider. And then we'll, let's make sure it's a box collider 2D. Remove component. Okay, add box collider 2D. Silly thing's always in the way here. So one more time, box collider 2D. There we go. And we need to make this quite a bit bigger. So if I set that on the Y, I don't know about, it looks like it needs to be bigger, maybe 10, something like that. So that, you know, it doesn't have to go all the way up, but it needs to be able to block. Maybe move this over a little bit so it's not against there. There we go. And maybe down a little bit because the barrel should come in, hit it. That should be fine. And so we'll call that barrier. And then we'll just make a duplicate of it. So Control D duplicated it, I think. No, maybe not. Let's try it again. Barrier, Control D. There we go. And I'm just going to bring it over to the other side. And then the one thing that I'm just going to be careful of is that the idea here is that it blocks Mario. So we can actually move Mario down to test that, but lets the barrels go through. So barrier 1, and it should be good there. Yeah, I think that's going to work out okay. So let's just test this again. Making sure, so the barrels, so yeah, so Mario can't go through there. And then theoretically, he shouldn't be able to go through here either. That's good. And then the barrels should fall and hit. Now you can see barrels are a little slow. I can get all the way to the top basically. And yeah, obviously I can't die yet. It's another thing. And you know, woo, the game's over. So obviously I've got a little bit of a barrel jam there. So obviously there's a little bit of fine tuning that we need to do. That was interesting. It's sometimes funny to watch the physics. Oh, we've got again, a barrel jam going on here. So Mario has to go help here. Let's get this cleaned up. There we go. Ooh, it went over the top. Oh, I don't know. There we go. Mario pushed them away. Well, look at that. Anyways, there we go. So Mario's actually helping out here now. So obviously a few things a little wrong with the physics there. So let's deal with the first thing where it's just a little slow. We need to speed that up. So to fix this up, we will just add another script and apply this to the barrel. So, you know, I don't know, barrel's probably fine. And it's pretty simple here. We're just going to add some force to that, to the rigid body just to push it along, give it that sort of initial kick, I guess. So we will do public. Well, no, we don't have to do public. Private rigid body 2D, and then I like to call it RB2D. Okay, and we'll also give it a little bit of a speed. So we'll make that public so we can change it, float. We'll call it a speed, and we'll set that to 1. Okay, so those are all the variables we need. I guess we'll change this one to awake. And so with that, we will grab the reference to the rigid body. So RB2D, you've been through this many times, is equal to get component. I don't know why it's not helping me. Component. Okay, rigid body 2D. Strange. Whoops. Maybe that's why. As I said, done this so many times, and then I mess up here. Okay, so that will take care of that. Good. Okay, no issues there. And then, like I said, all we want to do, RB2D, rigid body 2D. I'm just trying to figure out why. Okay, it's never read. Okay, so then down here, instead of on the update, what we're going to do is on collision, enter 2D. Again, I probably could have started that better, but okay, wait, it's collision 2D, and we'll call it collision. Okay, and so when we're in here, we can use, we've used tag before, but we can do the same thing with layer. So we can say here, if collision, if I can spell this, dot game object dot layer. So we're checking the layer here is equal to layer mask dot name to layer. So we've seen this before, and this is our ground. So if we do that, then what do we want to do here? Well, then we want to add a little bit of force. So RB2D dot add force, and we're going to add force to in the direction. So collision dot. So we're taking the collisions, and remember how we set all the arrows to the left or to the right, depending on the situation? That's why we did that there, because we're going to do collision dot transform dot right. So we're going to push in the direction that's the right of the platform times the speed, just to give it a little bit. And what we want to do here is use something called the force mode. So force mode 2D, and we're going to add an impulse. So an impulse is just a one-time push, right? So it's not a continuous one. We're just sort of pushing it once to get it going here. So let's take a look at this guy. And so what we need to do is add this script to the barrel, and the barrel prefab of that. So assets, prefabs, barrel. And I guess I'll just come down here, and we're going to find the barrel script. There it is. I don't think there's anything we need to change there. We're good. I mean, the speed might be not enough, so we can play with that. But what we should find is that it just has that little bit of an impulse. Let's see here. So when it gets down, you see how it just picked up? I think it could be a little higher. So I guess let me just turn this off, go back here. I mean, I'm going to go insane there, but just put 10 for a minute. Just to see. And then I always like to go bigger. So you can see right away, obviously 10 is too much, but it does have that feeling, right? I don't think, we need to go too much lower than 10 in some ways. Maybe a 6 or something like that. I think more is kind of better. Little bit too much there. I like it moving as quickly as it is through that, but it does sort of pick up and then almost slows down. We could also sort of reduce this angular drag. Let's just check here. I don't know if that's doing much. Yeah, well, you can play around with that, right? So, I mean, at the moment, that's that there. Okay, now there isn't much more that we need to do. We've got to mess around with, obviously, the collision, so we can destroy Mario there. And really, we'll sort of look at how you might start another layer, or sorry, another level, and have sort of a game manager going. So yeah, we're on the home stretch here. So let's first deal with the collisions here. So basically, there's only going to be two things that we can have here. The barrel will be one object that if we collide with, we're going to obviously sort of die. And then I guess with Donkey Kong as well, we might as well set that as an obstacle or sort of an enemy. And then our objective, right, what we're trying to get to is our princess here. So what we'll do is set up two tags first, and then get it to go into the player script and get that one set up so that it can recognize those. So let's do the tags here first. On the prefab, make sure on the prefab, we're going to add a tag, and we can give it a name here. Let's call it, enemy. Sure, enemy, right? I mean, it could be used for a variety of different things. Like Donkey Kong is kind of an enemy. The barrels are kind of an enemy. If there was anything else falling, right, it's going to be an enemy there. So we might want to differentiate that later on. But for the moment, I think we're pretty good. While we're making new tags, let's call this one our goal. Okay, because that's what we're aiming for to get to the princess there. And again, it could be a different goal, so those are two pretty good ones. So go back to the barrel, and we'll tag it enemy. Go to Donkey Kong, and we'll tag that one enemy. And the princess, we'll tag that one as goal. So that gives us the ability to sort of distinguish between the good and the bad, I guess. In our, let's go to our scripts here, and we'll go to our player controller. Next, we will get to sort of doing a game manager, but let's just put these ones in first. And what we want is our good old friend, the on collision enter 2D. So we got check collision, animate sprite. Just going right down to the bottom here. And I'll just start that on collision enter 2D. And so basically we've got the two different things. And so let's just put those in. So if the collision dot game object dot compare tag. And so then we've got our first one. Let's just do our goal first. So then you've got a decision what to do here. Oops, I think I put that in the wrong spot. So we can put in a couple things. Let's just put in our other one, else if, and basically the same thing, collision dot game object dot compare tag, and then that one will be our enemy. Good. All right. So then we're going to kind of do this, the same thing here for both. One is we'll sort of turn the player off so you can't sort of keep running around. And to do that, we'll just set enabled to false. That's all we have to do. And like I said, we haven't actually done this yet. So there is no game manager, but we're going to put that in pretty soon. And there is no function to run, but we will get this done. So we're going to find the object of type. So this will allow us to find the game manager, which doesn't exist yet, but we will have a game manager. And I guess if we reach the goal, we can run the level completed script. Okay, so we'll run that script. Again, this is going to give us errors here because we are not done this yet. I'm going to copy this and put it down here. And if we die, then I guess we could say, died, right? We can just give it some sort of name that indicates that we've died there, and then do whatever we have to do. So that should be good for the player controller, right? Obviously, these don't exist yet. We will create them now. So let's go back to Unity and create our new game manager script. Ignore the errors there. And we'll open that guy up. And so in our game manager, like I said, we're going to have to do those two scripts. Let's just, before we do that though, do a couple other little things that we're going to need. One is we need to keep a reference to the level that we're going to be on. So I'll just make this specific. We'll make this private int level. Okay. And we also need the lives, which will also be an int. So lives, and probably a score too. So private int score. And so then we've got those there. On the start, we're going to do two things. And this is something that we haven't talked about. Don't destroy on load. And I think we can just do with this is fine. So basically, this will help keep the game manager alive through the scenes. And we'll see how this works in a second. And we also will run a new game function, which again, we haven't created. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. Let's create that new game right away. So if we start a new game, oops, we're going to do a few things. One is we'll set the level to be, well, actually, we'll load a level there. So let's just start with the lives. We'll set that to, say, 3, and then the score, we'll set that to 0. Now, we will run a load level in a second here. We haven't created this function either. So we will load level 1. We'll pass in the value. Okay, so again, stuff that we just need to do here. Let us, before we do the load level, let us do the, we called it before here, the level completed and died. Let's get those done. So I'll just come in here, void level. I guess I could make these private, but that's okay. Actually, I need to make this public because this one needs to be called. So public void level completed. So this is if we reach the princess so far in our game. We can, I would suggest putting something different for the scores too. Like if you jump over a barrel, that might be something we need to figure out how we can do that. We can just get a score for completing the level at the moment. What we'd also want to do is determine the next level. So if we complete the level, we want to go to the next level. So what we'll do here is next level is equal to, well, I guess we could do, well, yeah, no, we'll do level plus 1. So we'll take whatever level we're on and add 1 to it. And we'll leave the next little, we'll leave it there for the moment. Let us come back to finishing up the other one. So we'll make this public as well, the died one, public void died. And so this is when we hit a barrel. This one here, we've obviously got to reduce the number of lives that we've got. So we'll just decrement it by 1. Now, if the lives, right, if the lives are less than 0, we want to restart the level. So that's what we'll start there. So we can just go back and do new game, right, which we've already got there, new game. So we can pass that one in. If not, right, sort of our else here, what are we going to do? Well, what we'll do is we'll load, reload sort of that current level basically. So load level, and we'll pass in the current level. So that would be our idea, okay? So obviously load level is what we've got to look at here because we don't have those done. All the rest look pretty good. If I save this, let's just double check that player controller is looking good. No more red here, right? So we're just dealing with this load level part. Player controller, collider 2D. I think, let me just check if there's a problem up here. So not error, will player controller collider 2D. I'll have to check that out. I'm not sure why that's doing that. On collision 2D, collision. Looks okay. We'll see what that is later on. Okay, anyways, back to the game manager. We want to figure out this load level, right? And so let's make this, I think this can be private because we're just calling it from here. Void load level. And load level will take a value, right? So it's going to put a number in. So int, and that will be the, I guess we'll call it the, well, level index we'll call it. Because it's going to be a value depending on what level we want to go to next. And so the level will be set to the level index. Right, so that's what we're using to pass in. This one here, we're going to do something a little bit different. Well, I'll leave that to the end there. And so all we really want to do is invoke and name of, and we're going to load the scene. We need to put this one in as well. And this will just give us a little bit of a break. Okay, so it doesn't sort of load exactly. It takes a second there, just a little bit of a pause. And we need to put in the load scene one. So the last thing here, private void load scene. And this one won't pass in a value because we've already passed in the level index to do, well, we've already got that value set, right? So that's okay. So then here we'll do our old friend scene manager dot load scene, and we'll load the level. Okay. Now I think we've got pretty well everything here. Okay, so let's just save this up. And I think I said I'll have to look at this after. I don't know why that's giving us a warning there. We've saved everything. Let's go back to Unity. Now we don't have an extra level, so we'll have to put that in. But let's just make sure things are looking reasonably. Okay, so I don't think so, apart from this, which we'll have to look at. If we hit play here, we just want to make sure a few things are working. And let's, before I do that, let's make sure we put our game manager in because our game manager is not in. So let's create a empty and make sure that's set to 000. We'll put this as game manager and drag our script in. And yeah, we can't see the lives or the score, so let's just set that to debug so we can actually see it. There we go, we can see everything there. Just to make sure that our score is going up and our lives are going down when we hit barrels and so on. So let's just see. We might get a few errors, yes, because we don't have anything in our build, so we do have an error there. So don't worry about that quite yet. Did our lives go down? Yes, our lives are going down, and we're getting run over by these. Okay, so that's good though. Our lives have dropped. Okay, and the trick here is for me to actually get to the top without hitting a barrel. The game won't reload at the moment because we don't have the scenes in the build index. So let me see. So every time I hit that barrel, I get disabled. So try one more time here. If not, I'm going to do a little bit of a cheat and move myself up to the top. We might have to work on the jump height there if this is happening too frequently. So I keep hitting that barrel. So let's just cheat a little bit here. Let's take Mario. Let's put him right up here. Isn't this is a good game. Okay, so he's up there. We just want to make sure that within our game manager, we can see here, do not destroy, that we get 1,000 points here. So let's see if I can actually do this. Yay, I get 1,000 points. And again, we can't build, right? We're getting an error here because we're not going to the next level, but that's just something that we just need to implement here in a minute. So to wrap this up, we'll just make sure that we can go from level to level, and yeah, it should be pretty straightforward here. So what I'm going to do is, let's first, I guess, we'll create one more level here, and what we're going to do, I need new level. Where is new level here? New scene, there we go. And so this one actually I'm going to call the preload, and we're going to put the game manager in here, and the idea is that this game manager will sort of exist throughout the game, right? So let's just actually delete it from here. Okay, so the game manager's gone. I'm going to go to the preload scene, save this one, and we don't need a camera actually on here. And then what we'll do is we'll just add the game manager script. And because, whoops, I guess we have to create an empty first. Create empty. Let us make sure that that's 0, 0, 0. I don't know why that transform. Oh, because it's on debug, that's why. Let's just turn that off, normal. Okay, so on the transform there, just reset it. There we go, and just add our game manager to it. I guess over here is fine. So then our game manager will be in all our scenes. And let's go back to our scenes. And we will duplicate this guy here. So let's, I don't think let's just go Control D to duplicate. And we'll call this level 2, I guess. And for the moment, we won't do anything except just sort of differentiate. So I'll just give the platforms a different color, just so we know. Obviously, this is something that you might want to modify. I'll make it a turquoise or whatever. So there, so now we know between level 1 and level 2. And I don't think, yeah, that's good. So then the next thing we'll do is go back to our build settings. So File, Build Settings, and we'll just make sure that we've got these in order. So I've got level 1 and level 2 in there. Why is this so big here? Let's just make this smaller. I'm trying to make it smaller. Full screen. Okay, I guess I just have to move the window smaller. Sorry, just covering everything up. Okay, so that's better. We just want to drag in our preload. The only real important thing, well, the order does matter here because we're going to go by index value. So 0, 1. 0 is always the first level it loads, and so we need to make sure our preload is at the top. Okay, so make sure the preload is at the top. In order to test this game now, we always have to make sure we start from the preload. So let's just see if that's going to work out here. Save. Now it should automatically go to level 1. So it will just take a second, and then there it goes. And of course, we're starting up here. So now we level 2 is a good question. Okay, so there it restarted, so that's a good sign. Okay, good. I jumped. Okay, let's see if I can get up here. Try again. There we go. Okay, so let's see if it goes to level 2, and it's not quite. So let's just see what we got to fix here. So I'm not getting anything. We did reach our objective. I did think it was going to go. So let's just see here. Whoops. Okay, so when we reach our objective, it should have, so on our player controller here, we should have gone to level completed. And so let's just double check. Level completed. Score is 1,000. Int next level, level +1. I don't think we've called our load level there. So let's just make sure. So level complete. Oh yeah, and there's a little bit more that we want to do here. So let's come into here, and what we want to check is, can we go to the next level? So there isn't necessarily an infinite number of levels. So what we want to double check is that our next level is going to be less than, and we can check to see how many scenes we have in our scene manager. So scene manager dot, and there's actually a little helpful little function here, or method, I guess, scene count in build settings. So basically that will return a number that is the number of scenes in our thing. So if it's less, we can load the level, and we can go to the next level. So that's what was not happening there. Else, we want to basically go back and load level 1. So if we get too far, we run out of level sort of thing, we want to go back. And that's typical of old arcade games. You would just keep playing the same level over and over again. Usually there was some differentiation in terms of speed or whatever, but it was kind of the same idea. So that should solve that problem. We will do one other little thing where it just, we sort of paused it for a second here. Where was that? Yeah, we did this invoke name of load scene. That just was to slow it down so it doesn't open the level right away. One thing we can do is kind of fade everything to black so that it looks like it's actually loading. So we will do that here by in the level. We'll get a reference to the camera. And the camera is really easy because you don't have to actually go search for it. You can see it. It just sort of automatically brings the camera in. We just have to create a reference to it. And then we will put a little bit of a warning here, or a little bit of a caution, if it's not null. Now, the reason we have to do this is because in that very first scene, there is no, that preload scene, there is no camera, and we don't want to get a null reference exception there. So what we will do though is set the camera.culling mask to be 0. And basically that just sets it to be blank. So it's not actually showing anything. Is that right? Culling mask is, oops, not there, sorry, is equal to 0. There we go. So if we set that to 0, basically it blocks anything the camera is viewing. And so we end up with a an empty scene or an empty camera. And then it will load, it will sort of pop in there. So if we hit save on that, I think we should be good. And let's just go back. Did we do anything else? Let's save all of them just in case. And we should have a working game here. So let's test this out. Now we have to make sure, like we started from the preload. Okay, no cameras, that's okay. Now you wouldn't see that happen. Now of course I'm starting at the top here, just to test out. So let me just die, so that it blanks and then it starts. So that's the blanking there of loading it. Yep. And we'll go up. And I guess we'll just make sure we can go to the next level. Stops, then it goes to the next level. Perfect. And we don't have a full game over either, like if you do die and stuff, so that's something we have to put in there. But yep, now it goes back to level 1. So everything, we can keep playing and playing. Like I said, our game manager here, and I called it game object, and we have to put it into our debug here. You probably see that my lives are, oh, I guess it did restart. So yep, so if our lives are get to 0, we're good. So there, so it did restart, although let me just see that. 2. I just want to make sure that it is going down. So 1, and then it should get to, I guess if it's 0, it will pop us back to 3. Yep, so that's working there. Good. So I think that is it for our basic game. Obviously, there's lots that can be improved. There's some graphics that can be added, music. There's the UI. There's trying to get points if you successfully jump a barrel, which is sort of an interesting little problem. You know, there's the hammer missing, right? So on that one part that he does have a hammer. To me, going up the ladder, a little bit odd because he can sort of move on the ladder. I try to figure out how we could get him to, one, have an animation on the ladder, which I don't think would be too hard. We could just sort of reverse that current image, and then that would look like he's, you know, sort of going hand over hand kind of idea. Yeah, there's lots of things there that we can make better in this game, but we have a pretty good start, and I think you've learned quite a few different things, especially a bit more of a challenging player controller, and also this idea of using a preload and the don't destroy unload. Some of you have employed this before, but I think this is a good example of where this is useful. And you obviously can put more and more things in that game manager and other objects in that game manager, and then they will be moved forward. One thing might be sort of music, where you don't want to restart the music all the time, or whatever the case might be. We might have a music manager and so on. So I hope this gives you a good start to completing your own Donkey Kong game.